Well, hi everyone. Dr. Schroeder here with your video introduction to week number 4 of our class in theoretical bases and foundations of teaching. And this week, the focus was primarily on, well, kind of two-edged in our discussions. The first was identifying and writing appropriate objectives, and then identifying instructional methods that would be used to develop a class on the fundamentals of nursing. And it's important to understand that objectives are important. Objectives are really the focal point of the curriculum insofar as they identify what it is that we want the students to learn. What is the level of learning that we want them to attain? What is it that we really want them to walk away from when they finish that class? And so they're broken down into a variety of categories and levels uh, focused on Bloom's taxonomy. Now, you read a little bit about Bloom's this week. There's a lot of really good helps out there on the internet. All you have to do is just do a search for Bloom's taxonomy, and you'll see that a lot of schools have developed and have printed up the good or the most appropriate action words or verbs to use in writing objectives. And Bloom's taxonomy moves from a very low level of just memorizing information, remembering or memorizing or committing things to memory, but without really necessarily doing anything with that information. Um, we don't really do a whole lot of that in nursing. Not in nursing education, not at this level. Mostly we think of it that like when you think of school children, that for example, like memorize the capitals of the states, that kind of information. And so the words that we use are such things as that they will be able to find or to label or to list or to match. Um, match a list of terms in a list that there. Um, that that correspond to whatever it is that you are looking for them to learn. When we're talking about nursing education, we're usually more up into the upper levels of Bloom's, which is where applying, analyzing, evaluating, and in some cases even creating, especially at the master's level. The master's level, we're starting to create more. But in nursing programs, when we think of like an ADN or an entry-level program, usually it's just being able to apply and analyze and to some level evaluate. So the terms that we use in those objectives are we use words like develop and classify and to categorize, to compare and contrast. Um, some of you use the term understand, which is it's an appropriate term to use that we want a patient to understand, but really understand and then do what? What do we want them to do with the understanding of information? Usually more, we're looking for them to be able to more specifically give definitions or to apply information or apply their knowledge in a particular fashion. So that's why those objectives are important. And it's also important to match the correct uh, application of method. What method are you going to use to instruct your students? That should be matched to the skill that you're doing. For example, if you have a class in how to start IVs or how to pass medications. You may want to have some lecture, but primarily it's probably going to be a lot of hands-on. You're going to be doing a lot of hands-on, either simulation or hands-on in a real clinical setting. Not so much lecture, maybe a little bit of video. Lecture is going to be more when you're talking about having students be able to understand particular pieces of information. This is also why, even though at this level, at the master's and bachelor's level, we're in online programs here, online really isn't a very appropriate method to use or appropriate methodology um, for when we're teaching, beginning nursing skills, fundamentals of nursing. We discussed that a little bit in class last week because really all that we're doing in class really is here just discussing, we're synthesizing, or we're evaluating, but there's really not a lot of hands-on skill here. I mean, you'll be doing some hands-on when you're doing, for example, your teaching plan for next week, but that's a little bit different when you talk about actual tactical skills, being able to pour medication or draw up syringe or something like that. That really takes some uh, demonstration, return demonstration. And so anyway, so that's why those objectives are important. So again, a very good week of discussion. Some good points were brought up. Good mastery of the material, and very robust and enlightening, and all those things I like to say. It's actually a really good week. And so moving on to week 4, we're talking about moving from that. Since now that we've identified objectives, we're going to talk about the evaluation process and how do we evaluate. And again, this is why those objectives are important. Another important aspect of objectives is that they should be measurable and observable in some way, because they, if you say that you want a student to gain a particular skill or acquire a particular set of knowledge, how are you going to measure that? How are you going to know that they made that? So that's why those objectives are important. We're going to talk about that this week. Specifically, your discussion question is going to discuss this thing called Socratic questioning. And I will leave it to you to go ahead and read about that. Socratic questioning is both an evaluation technique and also an instruction technique. It's one that I use quite a bit. You've seen me do it quite a bit in the discussions. Most discussion question responses, I usually end them with the question. That's an example of a Socratic method of evaluating how much you know and evaluating your understanding, as well as also a way to take the knowledge to a new level, asking new questions about already gained knowledge and pushing students to get that, a little bit of a deeper level of knowledge through the questions we ask. Well, that's going to be the focus of our discussion questions this week. Look for your week 3 discussion form responses to be graded probably by about Wednesday or Thursday this week. I have all your papers graded. I've left you all feedback. Please let me know if you have any questions about that feedback. You can use that feedback. You'll get a sort of an idea. I follow the rubric fairly closely, and so my best advice for you who had a score that that you wish that it could have been a little bit higher is really look at that rubric. What is the rubric asking? The rubric is going to be your key to what you should really be focusing on in that paper, and that's going to be true in your upcoming assignments as well. So I look forward to being with you in class once again. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Everybody have a great week. I hope that your summer, those of you that are taking summer vacations, or for those of you that this is a summer, that you're having some fun with that. And I look forward to seeing you in discussion forums.